Lucia and Jason traveled along the empty outskirts of Vice City, the bike's engine echoing across the quiet highway. The fading sunlight cast long shadows across abandoned fields as the pair approached a worn-down gas station. As they slowed, Lucia noticed small blue sensors blinking along the fuel pumps, far too modern for such an old place. Jason stepped off the bike and scanned the surroundings with caution. Lucia followed him, moving carefully across the dust-covered pavement. From the side of the station, a nervous mechanic emerged, his hands coated in grease and his eyes wide with worry. His tense body language warned them that the station's past carried more danger than its silent exterior suggested. His behavior hinted that the area once served as a smuggler's checkpoint, one that still held secrets beneath its surface. Before they could investigate further, a faint mechanical hum began rising above the roofline. Two small drones lifted into view, their red sensors sweeping methodically across the station grounds. The mechanic instinctively retreated, leaving Lucia and Jason with the unsettling machines. Jason quickly moved behind an old pump to stay hidden while the drones continued scanning. The projected beams illuminated a faint rectangular outline on the cracked concrete, revealing a hidden metal structure beneath the dirt. Lucia brushed away the dust, exposing a concealed hatch sealed with an intricate locking mechanism. Kneeling beside it, she pulled out a compact tool and began working on the lock. Sparks flickered as she connected wires, carefully manipulating the mechanism. Jason stayed alert, watching the drones hover lower with increasing suspicion. Their scanners focused directly on Lucia, but she continued without hesitation. A heavy internal click signaled success. The hatch loosened and slowly lifted, releasing a cool draft of air from the darkness below. Dim lights glowed deep within the shaft, showing a long underground tunnel extending far beneath the area. Jason leaned forward to study the passage, immediately noticing that the interior looked active, not abandoned. Lucia rose to her feet, her expression firm as she prepared to explore further. Together, they positioned themselves at the edge of the opening, ready to descend into the hidden tunnel while the drones hovered silently above, observing every move. Lucia and Jason moved carefully down the metal ladder, their footsteps echoing through the narrow shaft. The tunnel below stretched into darkness, lit only by flickering bulbs hanging from cables. Dust floated through the air, and scattered tools lay across the floor as if workers had stepped away only moments ago. Jason swept his flashlight across half-built support beams and abandoned carts, noticing fresh footprints in the dust. Lucia moved ahead, crouching near a row of crates stamped with unreadable symbols. The faint hum of machinery pulsed deeper inside the tunnel, hinting that the place wasn't nearly as abandoned as it seemed. A large generator sat against the wall, its switch covered in grime. Jason examined it for a moment, then flipped the lever. The generator roared to life, shaking the tunnel. A line of overhead lights powered on one by one, illuminating a massive underground roadway stretching far beyond their sight. The sudden brightness revealed tire marks, scattered paperwork, and long skid trails, all far too recent for a forgotten passage. A startled gasp came from the shadows. Lucia and Jason turned sharply. An underground worker stepped forward, hands raised, eyes wide with fear. His uniform was dusty, but the badge on his chest looked clean and new. "Worker, you're not supposed to be here. This place isn't on any map." His voice trembled, and he glanced repeatedly toward the deeper part of the tunnel, as if expecting someone to appear. Before Lucia could question him, a distant engine rumbled, loud, fast, approaching quickly. The worker bolted into a side corridor without another word. A bright pair of headlights burst into view, reflecting off the metal walls. A delivery van tore down the underground roadway at high speed, its engine echoing like thunder. Lucia grabbed Jason's arm and pulled him behind a stack of crates just as the van shot past them, missing them by inches. The wind from its speed knocked dust into the air. Jason watched the van vanish into the darkness, its taillights shrinking, then disappearing around a sharp bend. Lucia studied the tracks left behind. Someone was clearly using the tunnel for active transport, someone fast, organized, and determined to stay unseen. She exchanged a sharp, knowing look with Jason before moving deeper into the glowing underground roadway, the fading hum of the van still echoing through the tunnel walls as their mission pushed forward. Lucia and Jason continued deeper into the tunnel, guided by fresh tire marks streaked across the concrete. Overhead lights buzzed faintly, casting long shadows that shifted as they moved. The air grew warmer and thicker as they reached a wide underground loading bay carved into the rock, far bigger than anything that should exist beneath Vice City. Stacks of crates covered the space, each marked with coded symbols and stamped seals. Forklifts sat idle beside conveyor belts, and the distant hum of machinery vibrated through the walls, suggesting constant activity. Lucia crouched behind a container while Jason scanned the area. Voices echoed from behind a stack of pallets, 2 couriers standing beside a cargo trolley, unaware of their presence. One courier checked a clipboard while the other secured crates onto the trolley. Courier 1, quiet, frustrated, these deliveries aren't on any schedule. Courier 2, they never are. That's the point. People don't hear about this stuff. Lucia exchanged a tense look with Jason. The couriers were handling secret shipments, likely the same ones tied to the van speeding through the tunnel earlier. She slipped her phone out and began taking silent photos of the marked crates. Jason stepped out slightly to block the courier's line of sight, pretending to check an exposed circuit panel. One courier suddenly spotted movement. Courier 2, hey, who's that? Jason deliberately shifted, drawing their attention further. Jason, maintenance team. Got a report about a blown fuse. The couriers moved closer, suspicious but unsure. Lucia used the distraction to snap more photos, close-ups of the symbols, the seals, and a crate partially cracked open revealing sleek containers inside. Before she could take another shot, a loud engine kicked on behind them. A forklift jolted to life. Its headlights blasted through the bay, and it accelerated straight toward Jason and Lucia. The couriers shouted, diving out of the way as the forklift barreled forward. Jason grabbed Lucia's arm and pulled her as the machine scraped past the crates, sending splinters flying. The forklift swung again, clearly unmanned. Someone had remotely activated it. Lucia sprinted toward the side wall, spotting a pair of maintenance doors. Jason stayed behind long enough to shove a cart in the forklift's path, slowing it for a moment. They slipped through the doors just as the machine crashed into the crates with a violent clang. On the other side, a metal staircase spiraled upward. The pair climbed quickly, breath steadying as the sounds of chaos echoed below. The staircase opened into a narrow platform overlooking a secondary tunnel, higher, cleaner, and clearly part of a different transport route. This hidden upper passage stretched into the distance, lit by bright LED panels and lined with railings as if designed for fast, silent movement. It wasn't just a smuggler route. It was an entire courier network hidden above the city, one the public was never meant to see. Lucia and Jason stepped out of the upper tunnel and followed a narrow service path that sloped upward. The sound of dripping water grew louder until daylight broke through gaps in the concrete. They emerged at the edge of a dense swamp, where tall reeds swayed and insects buzzed in the thick, humid air. The atmosphere felt alive, too alive. A small wooden pier extended from muddy ground into murky water. An old fishing boat bobbed gently, tied loosely to a post. A fisherman stood nearby, trembling as he packed his gear at frantic speed. His hands shook so badly he dropped a tackle box into the mud. Lucia approached with caution, her steps quiet on the damp planks. The fisherman flinched at the slightest movement. Fisherman, stay clear of the water. The animals, they changed. Something happened after that government test down the road. Jason glanced at the water. Ripples moved in unnatural patterns, circling, then stopping suddenly as if something intelligent lurked beneath the surface. Lucia and Jason untied the boat, pushing it gently into the swamp's slow current. The camera followed from above as the small boat drifted through narrow channels lined with thick vegetation. Birds perched silently, watching their every move with unsettling focus. Even the insects seemed to track the boat's movement. A deep splash broke the silence behind them. Jason turned just in time to see a large crocodile rising from the water, its eyes fixed on the boat. Its movement was controlled, precise, nothing like the usual sluggish creatures common to the area. The crocodile lunged forward. Lucia gripped the motor handle and spun it sharply, steering the boat to the right. The hull skimmed past reeds as the animal closed in. Jason reached into a storage box, grabbed 2 emergency flares, and struck one to life. The sudden burst of red light reflected off the crocodile's scales. Jason, come on, take the hint. He waved the flare over the edge, sending sparks into the water. The crocodile slowed, confused by the shifting light. When it lunged again, Jason tossed the flare several meters away. The bright glow splashed into the swamp, drawing the creature off course. Lucia used the distraction to accelerate toward a nearby bank. The boat scraped against the mud as they jumped out, pulling it higher onto land. The sound of the crocodile thrashing behind them faded into the thick fog. As they moved inland, the swamp opened into a clearing where tall grass bent unnaturally toward a fence perimeter. Warning signs covered the metal gate. Unauthorized entry forbidden. Active test zone. No trespassing. The wind carried the faint hum of machines behind the fence. Lucia and Jason exchanged a tense look. Whatever happened in that swamp wasn't natural, and the answers were somewhere inside the guarded research zone ahead. Lucia and Jason moved along the fence line, keeping low as the warning signs rattled softly in the wind. The hum of machinery grew louder the closer they approached. A surveillance camera rotated above the gate with rhythmic precision, sweeping the perimeter in predictable arcs. Lucia waited for the camera to turn away, then motioned Jason forward. Together, they slipped into a narrow gap beneath a section of loose metal fencing, crawling into the restricted research zone. Once inside, they rose slowly, taking in the strange layout of the compound. Solar-powered sensors dotted the ground like metallic flowers, their panels gleaming under the fading daylight. Small devices blinked with data lights, green, red, yellow, each capturing information the duo couldn't yet understand. A cold breeze drifted through the open-air facility, carrying faint mechanical whirs and recorded voices echoing from inside the research containers. They approached a cluster of old experiment modules, metal storage units retrofitted with screens, cables, and tangled machinery. Dust clung to the sides, but the monitors inside were active. Jason stepped into one of the modules. His hand brushed a console, accidentally activating a holographic projection. A shimmering blue display flickered to life, showing footage of wildlife and pedestrians reacting to invisible triggers. Animals moved with unnatural speed. NPC civilians adjusted their paths moments before new obstacles appeared. Cars braked early, as if predicting accidents before they happened. The projection switched to a title card. Environmental Simulation Upgrade, Test Cycle 43B. Lucia studied the footage, eyebrows tightening. The projection shifted again, showing waveform patterns and grids that mapped movement before it occurred. Footsteps broke the silence. Jason quickly muted the console. Lucia darted to the wall and pulled him beside a tower of equipment just as two guards walked into the module area. Their flashlights cut through the dark, beams gliding across the ground. Guard 1, they're running new candidates tomorrow. More tests for Mirage. Guard 2, hope they calibrate it right this time. The last run made the animals too reactive. Lucia exchanged a tense look with Jason. Project Mirage, the same name the fisherman hinted at without knowing it. The guards moved closer. Lucia held her breath as one flashlight hovered dangerously close to their hiding spot. A distant radio call broke through, pulling the guards away. Radio, Unit 6, report to the west sector. Movement detected. The guards jogged off, their footsteps fading. Lucia acted quickly. She led Jason toward the back of the research zone until they reached a maintenance shack with a half-open door. Inside, pipes, cables, and a tall service ladder extended through an opening in the ceiling. Jason pushed the door shut behind them. Lucia climbed first, gripping the metal rungs as the sounds of guards shouting echoed outside. Jason followed quickly, sliding the hatch closed the moment they reached the top. The ladder led them out onto a forest ridge above the research zone. Moonlight spilled through the treetops, and the distant hum of the facility continued below, hidden behind layers of leaves and shadows. From the ridge, Lucia could see the entire restricted compound glowing faintly. Whatever Project Mirage was, it wasn't just a research experiment, it was something huge, something shaping all of Vice City. And they were now deep inside its secrets. The ridge stretched across the tree line like a jagged spine, sunlight washing over the rocks. Lucia climbed the last slope, brushing dust from her hands as she looked around. A faint metallic glint caught her attention, something standing tall above the brush. Jason stepped beside her, breathing steady. Jason, what is that thing? Lucia narrowed her eyes. It was a tower, thin, rusted, covered in adjustable solar mirrors pointing in random directions. They approached it carefully. Wind pushed softly through the trees, rattling loose panels on the structure. Lucia moved to the base and found an old control box with a cracked screen and faded buttons. Lucia, looks like it still works. She pressed one of the switches. The mirrors jerked, then slowly rotated. Sunlight shifted across the valley below until it caught something hidden, an outline shimmering like heat waves. Jason stepped forward. Jason, hold on, look, right there. The sunlight revealed a building camouflaged under lead reflective panels. From afar it looked like part of the forest, but now it stood exposed, a rectangular structure tucked into the hillside. Lucia, let's check it out. Descending to the blind house. They moved down the ridge through tall grass and scattered boulders. Their steps were quiet, cautious. The closer they got, the more unnatural the building appeared, too clean, too intentional. Two hikers stood near the entrance, adjusting their backpacks. One of them glanced at Lucia and Jason. Hiker 1, you heading in there? Lucia, Just looking around. What's this place? The hikers exchanged uneasy looks. Hiker 2, locals call it the blind house. People say weird stuff goes on inside. Jason, what kind of weird? Hiker 1, lights at night, sounds like machinery under the ground. We don't stick around long enough to find out. The hikers walked off quickly, disappearing into the trees. Lucia and Jason approached the doorway. The inside was dim, covered in dust and old footprints. The air felt cold compared to the forest outside. Inside the building, they stepped into the hallway. The walls were lined with panels, tilted mirrors, broken cables, and sensors blinking faintly. It felt abandoned, but not completely dead. Jason inspected a junction box on the wall. Jason, some of this equipment is still pulling power. Lucia moved ahead, scanning the floor. A faint beeping sound echoed deeper in the building. It grew louder, sharper, bouncing down the hallway. Lucia, you hear that? Jason, yeah. That's an alarm system. A sudden metallic click echoed from somewhere inside, like gears resetting. Lucia took one step forward. Jason grabbed her arm immediately. Jason, stop. She froze. Jason crouched and pointed at the tile just in front of her. A thin seam outlined a pressure plate disguised perfectly to match the floor. Jason, they hid traps in here. Lucia exhaled slowly, stepping back. Lucia, someone really wanted to keep people out. The beeping grew into a pulsing alarm, steady, deliberate, meant to warn someone, or something. Jason scanned the hallway. Jason, we move slow. Watch every step. Lucia nodded. Lucia, let's figure out what this place is hiding. Together, they advanced deeper into the blind house, tension rising with each careful movement. The hallway narrowed as Lucia and Jason moved deeper into the blind house. The alarm's steady pulse echoed through the walls, vibrating through the metal frames and dusty vents. The lights flickered, weak, old, strained. Jason checked each tile before stepping. Lucia watched the corridor ahead, alert and tense. A low hum vibrated somewhere under the floor, like a generator warming up. Lucia, this place isn't dead. Jason, yeah, someone kept it alive on purpose. They reached a crossway where two corridors branched off. One path led downward, colder and darker. The other curved into a room faintly lit by an orange glow. Lucia pointed toward the light. Lucia, let's see what's in there first. The mirror room. They stepped into a circular chamber filled with strange equipment. Large mirror panels hung from the ceiling on mechanical arms. Some were cracked, others spotless, all positioned at odd angles as if part of an experiment. A console blinked near the center. Jason moved to it, dust clouded up around his hands as he brushed it off. He tapped a button, and the mirror shifted slightly with a groan. A faded hologram flickered onto the wall, static lines, distorted shapes, then a voice breaking through. Recording voice, initiating behavioral reflection test, subject responses improving with light patterns. Lucia frowned. Lucia, behavioral reflection? What were they testing here? Jason shook his head slowly. Jason, looks connected to Project Mirage. The recording cut with a sharp buzz. Before they could react, another alarm sounded, faster, sharper. Lucia, that's not the same alarm as before. The floor vibrated once, then again. An unexpected visitor. Footsteps echoed from the hall they came from. Lucia instantly stepped behind a beam. Jason ducked behind a broken storage unit. The footsteps were heavy, controlled, moving with purpose. A lone security officer entered the room, scanning the shadows with a flashlight. He muttered quietly to himself. Officer, great, another system reset. Why does this place always act up on its own? He approached the console, tapping a button. The mirrors clicked back into an idle position. Jason glanced at Lucia, signaling silently. Lucia nodded. The officer took out a radio. Officer, control, I'm at Station 3. Looks like another false trip. I'll run the checks. Static replied, but no clear voice came through. The officer sighed, leaning slightly over the console. Lucia stepped out quietly, keeping the distance. Lucia, hey. The officer spun around, startled. Officer, whoa. This zone's restricted. How did you two get inside? Jason stepped closer, hands raised. Jason, we're not here to cause trouble. We just need answers. The officer's eyes darted between them, uneasy, curious. Officer, if you triggered alarms, then you've already seen too much. He lowered his flashlight slowly. Officer, whatever you think this place is, it's worse. And if the systems woke up again, then someone else is coming. Lucia frowned. Lucia, coming? Who? The officer hesitated. Officer, the oversight team. They check disturbances. You don't want them finding you. The building rumbled lightly, dust drifting from the ceiling. Officer, you two need to leave. Now. Lucia exchanged a look with Jason. Lucia, then show us a way out. The officer paused, conflicted. Then he pointed toward the downward corridor. Officer, that passage leads to a maintenance shaft. Old lift still works. Takes you to a lower exit near the creek. Jason nodded. Jason, thanks. What about you? The officer shook his head. Officer, I'll stall them. Just move. The maintenance descent. Lucia and Jason took the narrow corridor. The hum grew louder as they moved. Pipes lined the walls, dripping slowly into rusted drains. The floor sloped downward until they reached an old service elevator with grated doors and a blinking control panel. Lucia pressed the button. The lift groaned before the doors slid open. They stepped inside. The elevator rattled as it descended, metal grinding against metal. Jason glanced upward. Jason, think he'll be okay? Lucia exhaled softly. Lucia, he chose to help us. We keep moving. The lift opened into a cavern-like lower level. Cool air punched through, fresh, outdoor air. The exit tunnel ahead led toward a dim glow. They jogged through it until they emerged behind a cluster of boulders overlooking a creek surrounded by tall grass and pine trees. Behind them, faint alarms continued to echo from the blind house. Lucia looked back at the structure. Lucia, Project Mirage, more secrets every step. Jason adjusted his backpack. Jason, then we follow the trail. They headed into the forest, the path narrowing as the mystery deepened. Wind swept across the ridge as Lucia and Jason emerged from the trees. The alarms from the blind house still echoed faintly behind them, but another sound quickly overpowered everything, the thumping blades of a helicopter. Lucia looked up first. A black chopper circled the forest, its spotlight sweeping across the treetops like a slow-moving blade of white fire. Lucia, they're already searching. Jason, we need distance. Fast. He guided her down a dirt slope that connected to a narrow trail leading toward a nearby highway. Dry branches snapped under their boots as they moved quickly but controlled, staying under tree cover whenever the spotlight neared. The helicopter dipped lower, its engine roaring. Lucia, it's locking onto our trail, move. They sprinted through the brush as the chopper's light blasted the ground behind them. Leaves kicked up in swirling bursts. A warning siren blared from the aircraft. They burst out of the tree line and onto the shoulder of a rural highway. A silver sedan swerved as its driver spotted them rushing out of the woods. The car screeched to a stop. The frightened driver stepped out, hands up in panic. Driver, please, take whatever you want. Just don't hurt me. Jason raised both hands calmly. Jason, we're not here to harm you. We just need your car to get away from that. He pointed at the helicopter sweeping toward the road. The driver's fear shifted into understanding. Driver, take it. Keys are in the ignition. Lucia gave the driver a grateful nod. Lucia, thank you. Stay off the road until it passes. Jason slid behind the wheel. Lucia jumped in the passenger seat and slammed the door. The helicopter spotted them again. Jason, hold on. Highway escape. The car shot forward, tires spitting gravel before hitting asphalt and launching into full speed. Jason weaved through traffic as the helicopter descended behind them. Lucia glanced through the rear window. Lucia, it's gaining. Jason, not for long. He jerked the wheel left, cutting off a truck before sliding into an exit ramp that curved sharply downhill. The car bounced, suspension squealing. Street signs flashed past in blurs. The helicopter struggled to follow the tight turn and overshot, giving them seconds. Lucia, good move, take the underpass. Jason nodded and swung the sedan beneath a concrete bridge where shadows swallowed the car completely. They held their breath as the helicopter hovered above the highway, sweeping the wrong direction. Jason eased the car out from under the bridge and merged onto a quieter service road. Jason, okay, we lost them. Lucia, not for long. Let's see what we actually got. The evidence of Mirage. They pulled into a hidden rest stop surrounded by thick bushes. Jason kept the engine running while Lucia opened her phone, scrolling through the photos she'd taken back in the loading bay and research zone. Each image appeared sharper, more damning than the last. Crates marked with coded symbols. Solar sensors tracking wildlife patterns. Experimental recordings showing altered animal behavior. Diagrams of NPC reaction upgrades. Mirror systems for environmental manipulation. Lucia zoomed in on one label in particular. Lucia, there. Project Mirage. Jason leaned closer, reading the lines along the bottom of the frame. Jason, World Reaction System, Adaptive Intelligence, Secret Environmental Nodes. He paused. Jason, this isn't just an update. This is the whole game's spine. Lucia scrolled again, showing a photo of a blueprint labeled Mirage Layering, Top Secret. Lucia, Wildlife Changes. Smart NPCs, Environmental Traps. Hidden Passage Networks. She swallowed. Lucia, 10 different systems, all linked. All hidden. Jason stared forward, stunned. Jason, Rockstar built an entire layer under the world. Lucia, and never told the players. Wind rustled through the trees behind them. In the distance, the helicopter's faint hum returned for another sweep. Lucia closed the phone. Lucia, we have proof. Now we need to decide what to do with it. Jason put the car in gear. Jason, whatever comes next. Mirage changes everything. The car pulled away from the rest stop, disappearing down the empty service road as the truth behind Project Mirage finally came into focus.